anytime you feel like somebody is in your face about something, that's your ego yelling at you. So I was encouraging, as we were talking about, if you think, I don't know, let's just pick your son, your daughter, your sister, somebody is in your face, your boss, and they're saying things to you, and you're upset, and you're triggered by it. If you could replace that name with your name. So if I said, Ron is yelling at me today, if I changed it to Danielle is yelling at me today, what I'm really doing is getting into the truth that it is my own ego that is yelling at me. It might look like it's somebody else. When you become present with that, that's when you can start to slay or retire the ego, because it's really just yourself. And when you start moving out of that and calming down and not judging yourself and being at ease, that's when all of this energy opens up and you have this information highway through your higher self to all the different realms that are around you. And that's the journey, is to quieten all of those negative voices in your head. One, because it heals you emotionally and it also heals you physically, but because it opens you up to a much higher path. And so that's the beauty. And that gets quieter and quieter and smaller as you nurture that wounded inner child that keeps showing up to yell at you and tell you you're not value, you're not worth, you're not divine, because it's that which keeps you separate. Compartmentalizes you away from the ethers. And that's what you have access to. When that voice is quiet, you can hear the angels. You can hear your guides. You can hear the ascended masters. You can hear the voice of your higher self. And there's nothing that you can't accomplish or move through or create or design. There's no amount of health or personal abundance that would be denied your access or your ability. You have this ability to get all of this into your life if you simply allow it to come in and know that you're worthy of it coming in. And it's forgiving yourself for the things that you think that you've done based on the human condition that you're experiencing. It's about forgiving your actions that are driven by the beliefs that are created by the human condition. Tell us a little bit more about your workshop this afternoon. What we're going to be covering. You've got the slideshow. I imagine you've got some beautiful pictures from your trip.
I don't have the new pictures, unfortunately.
Oh.
There's some on
there's
some on my Facebook page that I can bring up, because we have wireless here that I might show. But basically, it's going to be a journey into kind of the sacred geometry and the divine perfection of the cosmos and the creation. And we can see the codes of creation are going to be revealed today for those who come who haven't seen this, and be able to see how we're totally weaved into the very fabric of creation on a subatomic level and in the quantum field. So when you get to see this, I have some beautiful images of DNA, of cellular structure of the human body, and we can see how the sacred geometries overlay precisely with our own cellular structure and our own DNA. And these same patterns are being reflected in the crop circles and through the mass consciousness now, with many artists are bringing through like kind of the mandalas we see on the walls here. And what this actually means when we look at patterns like this, we all know that they have energy, but harmonically, what are they communicating? What is the message? What is the code? And how do you decode the message within the geometrical patterns, which are especially coming forth through the crop circles, which are directly communicating to the evolution of mankind right now in the quantum leap that we are preparing to take at 2012. And so I have some, science from NASA, from, prophecy from the Mayans, and then showing what's going on with geneticists and biologists are discovering some new discoveries. And so we're going to kind of get some left brain information to kind of plug in that part, and then at the end we're going to have an experiential thing with some sound and the crystal bowls and a guided meditation in order to link in the quantum field, in the unified field, and have an experience of that, and hopefully be able to see holographically and activate some codes today, because most of us our circuitry is operating in a very diminished capacity. Scientists say we're only, average person like us is only using perhaps 2 to 3% of our brain capacity. And so the majority of our brain is dormant and not functioning. And then that corresponds with the dormant DNA, which geneticists say about 80% of our DNA, they don't know what it's for and it's not working. There's no use for it. So all these aspects to ourselves are in a dormant state, but they're being stimulated and activated now and awakened by precisely for this time that we're living in. And I'll talk about the different factors that are triggering this activation for all of us. Whether you are aware of it or not, there is an evolution of the human species occurring right now, because we are an evolving species. So we'll get into all this stuff. It's quite fascinating. I have some beautiful imagery and things to look at, and also give a transmission, because what happens is when I get in front of a group like this, the Ascended Masters and the Angels and the Galactic representatives from Galactic Federation and stuff start coming through, and I never know exactly the communique which will happen for the particular group, but I kind of have a basic overview, but there will be specific downloads that will come. And as I said, I just got back just a few days ago from England, where I was in the crop circles for about 10 days and received the new codes. I'll be talking about the current circles that have just come in the last week or two, and the messages of what they're communicating to humanity right now. It's very fascinating conversation that's occurring right now in the circles. So, it's always insightful and entertaining, and can be life-changing in some instances for people. I've had that experience, so I hope you'll join me. And I also have some beautiful, high-quality crystals and some nice music, and also Crystal. She makes some beautiful gemstone crystal jewelry that she's been making, really nice stuff, so please have a look at that. And if you want to sign my mailing list and find out more about special events and conferences and workshops and perhaps trips to sacred sites and this kind of thing, please sign my list.
This trip to England, you were not the tour guide.
I was not the guide. I went along with somebody else, but I did the music on the trip. So I take my harp with me and play the harp in the middle of the crop circles. I primarily play it, I let the wind play it, so I basically just hold it up over my head and let the wind blow through the strings. And it's the most amazing, otherworldly, celestial sound. It's like nothing you've ever heard. And the tone in it is ultra-high frequency tone. And it can actually clear the physical body and the emotional body and the mental body and the causal body of blocked energy. And I've seen this happen time and time again. On this trip, there were a couple people that I played the wind harp on their body, against their body, and all of a sudden they had huge emotional releases, and both of them said it was the most powerful experience of their life and completely changed their life, because, we get stuck. We get stuck sometimes, emotionally, mentally, in our body. We have pains and aches, and a lot of it's just stuck energy. And we do what we can to clear it out, to relieve the blockages, but sound, ultra-high frequency sound, it permeates right through and it just vibrates it right out. And that's what the wind harp does, and the harp in general, but the wind harp is something very unique. I do have a new CD of that sound recorded over there on my table, Circles of Light. So it's a very unique recording and very, very powerful and excellent for meditation and opening multi-dimensional